of the ones from long ago. There's an evil that's been dreaming, but now it's softly screaming. From the darkness, their power will grow. Their voices are made of poison. When you listen, you are sure to be disturbed. You can lock your doors. You can say your prayers. No creature can resist their wicked words. Never mind, no need to worry. That's all just a story of the whispers of the old gods.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the StarLadder iLeague Season 2. We're coming soon. Or no, we are actually here. Noxious, we are here!
Yes, we are. We are here. And we're back for the last match of the day, which will oppose Hoej versus AKAWonder. You saw AKAWonder play yesterday. He was facing off against Purple, ended up getting the win after Purple left. And AKAWonder is playing, as you told me, a lot of Cthulhu decks.
Yes, he's definitely one of the Cthulhu cultists, and he is bringing a Warlock, which is the Cthulhu Rhinolock. An interesting twist, we haven't seen that from anybody else. People are mostly playing the Faceless Leroy version, or like Pavel, the more greedy one. Then his mage is a Tempo Mage. But you know what? We can talk about the lineups in a moment. They are starting the game right now. Druid, Cthulhu Druid versus Hoej's Navi Midrange Shaman.
Yeah, the Shaman from Hoej is something that we saw him play a little bit earlier and ended up being a very weak spot in his lineup. He's got Shaman, Paladin, Warrior, and Warlock, and AKAWonder has Mage, Druid, Warrior, and Warlock. So Mage and Druid for AKAWonder versus the Shaman Paladin for Hoej, which means that this is one of those matchups that comes down to the differences between what they're deciding to play. Cthulhu Druid is arguably one of the most popular the most popular Cthulhu archetypes because it plays so well with the Dark Arakoa on 6.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the most popular ones. I would argue it is the strongest one. We've seen Green Sheep playing it as well, a bit of a different list, but it was hard to actually notice what he has in the deck because the turn-free Ragnaros just sealed the game. Hopefully, with AKAWonder, we'll be able to see more cards. What do you think about his hand? He is playing Fandral, so a card that's not a standard in those Cthulhu lists, I believe.
Well, you tend to seek Fandral anywhere because it will at least work with Wrath or Nourish in many cases. And I think one of the big problems of Druid right now is because Ancient of Lore is gone, the only thing they have left for card draw is, in fact, that Nourish. And if you can get a Fandral into Nourish, then you're getting not only the ability to ramp up, but also to draw. And the fact that it works with Wrath gets you 4 damage on one target, which acts as a, I guess, a crazy source of spell damage, right? In a weird way. And it also cycles.
Can we safely say that Fandral is bringing fun to the Druid decks?
Sure, you can say that. I mean, why not? Either way, I don't know if this deck is supposed to beat mid-range Shaman. Again, Shaman is supposed to be one of those classes that generally, or historically at least, performs well against Druid because they flood the board with a lot of totems, and because Bloodlust is a thing, Druid has to respond by wiping everything off, and they often cannot do it.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Hoej doesn't have a very fast start, so a Mana-Tide Totem is good because he will be able to draw a card and there is no way to respond to it. So these 2 cards, it's like Arcane Intellect, but he needs to respond to the Twilight Elder, and he does pick up Feral Spirit that might actually protect his Mana-Tide Totem and also buff the Trog if he goes for it this turn.
Yeah, I think it's too good a turn to pass because on turn 5 you're at least getting Tuskar Totemic or even Hero Power with Rockbiter Weapon. Playing a totem is not too bad when your plan is to get the things from below at some point, and they're pretty tough to work with. As Druid, it's really difficult to move off anything off this board. You've already used up a Wrath on a 2-drop. This is going to stick.
Yeah, this is a really good mid play. And now back to AKAWonder. He's running Mire Keeper in his list as well. A cool card, actually. For 4 mana, you get a 3/3 and a 2/2. It replaced the Keeper of the Grove in most of the lists.
Yeah, it's not so much that Keeper of the Grove has bad abilities. It's just that Mire Keeper gives you the extra body, which right now, because the game is so, I guess, body-centric, and Druids are all playing ramp, it's either going to be kind of a smaller Silverhand Knight in the late game or just an extra Wild Growth in your deck, which is a bit of an issue sometimes because that that Mark Keeper adds itself to a roster of cards that end up being somewhat dead. I mean, yes, it is a 3/3 and a 2/2 late game, but that's not a top deck you're looking for, right, to win a game. Whereas at least Wild Growth can cycle to something more relevant.
Yeah, definitely. And man, I'm just looking at this hand from AKAWonder, and people say that Druid is one of the most honest decks, or like most fair decks, and he only has those minions. Like it seems like the only thing he can do is just play one minion, and there are no spell combinations, nothing else. You just pick the card you want to play this turn, and then you have one card to be picked next turn.
Yeah, there's no cheating, right? And that's both good and bad. One of the problems with that is that cards like Hex are notoriously good against those types of decks because you play one big minion for 6 mana that does nothing else than be a big minion, and then Hex eats it up, and then they play something else, which is why Shaman has historically been so good against Druid. Is back in the days of Ramp Druid, mid-range Shaman just ate them alive completely. AKAWonder's confused.
He is definitely confused. So what do you do as Hoej? Do you try to get a Flame Tongue Totem from Tuskar Totemic, also limiting reducing the cost of Think from Below from your hand, or is there maybe a cute play with Rockbiter?
I don't know if it's a cute play. I would be inclined to just develop the Tuskar Totemic because it is an extra body on board, even if I fall behind this turn. And as you mentioned, the Flame Tongue Totem possibility is always good. And there's a very high chance you pick something up that's good, right? You got 15% for Manatide, 15% for Totem Golem, and 15% for Flame Tongue. So half the time, nearly half the time, you'll be getting something you like out of it.
Yeah, the problem is like you are risking leaving Fandral on board. So if there is Nourish, you give your opponent 3 cards and mana crystals. There is no Nourish, but there is the Mire Keeper. So an extra body on board, and I believe 2 empty mana crystals from the card.
You'll be getting 1 mana crystal from it.
1 mana
because
crystal.
you're not doubling it up as much as you are getting both options at once.
Sure. So it's not bad, just getting the Mire Keeper right here, and you will be able to coin hero power if you choose to, or do you just you probably might want to keep the coin for Cthulhu. If you play Cthulhu earlier in the game, it might be a bit better. You can also decide to just coin Dark Arakoa to be able to protect Fandral and deal with one of those totems.
Sure, I mean, if there were a Hex last turn, you assume it would have been seen, but the guy drew 2 cards, he's going to draw an extra one next turn. So if you want to fight for the board, playing the Cultist isn't half bad, because you can kill the 3/2 and kill the 3/3 with your Fandral. The only issue is you're never going to get Fandral value if you go for that route. So you want to make sure that you remove those Mana Tides. They're higher priority than the minions that deal damage. But on the flip side, you're still going to be running into Hex later on. Like, you're still not going to be so far ahead on board that Hex doesn't bother you.
Yeah, and Hoej is in a good shape. He's already picked double Rockbiter. He has a couple of good cards in hand. The most important part is that he has a full hand of options, and he can use those cards as he wishes to. So what will be the best play here? Tuskar Totemic and Think from Below. You can play both this turn because the cost will get reduced. You still have a 15% chance, you said, to get Flame Tongue, 50% to get Totem Golem, so you can get something really big in there. Trog is still online. Again, like the only problem that we might be facing is that Fandral is alive, unless you get a Flame Tongue Totem.
Yeah, I don't know. AKAWonder right now is just having trouble focusing. I feel like he looks like he's in a bar or a cafe and somebody's screaming in his ears.
I think he's playing in some kind of a LAN. Like yesterday, there was even a girl that just gave him the kiss before he started. So
Sure.
They do have a party right there, like a LAN party. That's what gamers do, man.
Party all day. I think the Hearthstone crowds, the Hearthstone crowd tends to be a bit milder. I guess if you ask Reynad, maybe not.
Forsen. All right, so he goes for the Tuskar Totemic, doesn't get a great totem. At 1/1 is still alright. Not going for Think from Below just yet. Just using the Rockbiters to clear the board. He knows that the Rockbiters with the Doomhammer are great because you have that burst. But if he continues staying on board, he has the Bloodlust as well. And he hasn't seen Swipe. There's no removal almost available for AKAWonder. He has Disciple of Cthulhu, but can he really play Disciple this turn and follow up?
I think so, yeah. I think you can. I mean, you did... you do seize the board by doing so, right? Because you have the hero power if you want to kill the Trog. The alternative is to just play the Claxi Ember Weaver on its own, which is also acceptable. Yeah. The only question is, how much do you need to push this Manatide off the board? Because there is Thunderblood Valiant. which makes it a threat more so than just a card draw engine.
Yeah. So he's going for the Dark Arakoa, and he's going to remove the Throg, I believe, with the hero power.
Sure.
Sure. So yeah, he might not be thinking about Thunderbluff Valiant, and Valiant is playable next turn. You can play Valiant and a Totem, which means that the Totem that you play is going to get buffed. You will be able to deal with the Arakoa. Not effectively, though, because...
Oh, wow. He can actually play 3 Totems and the thing from below this turn.
Yeah.
And that sets up a really good Thunderbluff Valiant turn. Let's not even talk about the Bloodlust that can come of it. I mean, he's going to be off mana for Thunderbluff on turn 8 if he goes for the triple Totem turn, assuming he uses the 2 Totem Golems instead of the hero power. But I mean, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think I kind of like it because, like, Thing from Below will get slaughtered by the 5/7 Dark Arakoa, but they do have a great board for the Bloodlust, and he might not go for it, it seems. He's still valuing... Like, before we've seen Hoej actually really save his cards in those matchups, trying to leverage the hero power.
No, but he can play it. That's what I'm saying. He can play Mana Tide, Double Totem Golem, and Thing from Below.
And Thing from Below for free. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this is exactly the situation. He fills up the board completely. Yes, the 5/5 dies, but that's overall completely fine. Worst case scenario, you have to smash a small minion into it. I think that's a good trade-off because you have Bloodlust on the back end. I mean, this is really good.
There are some plays available for AKAWonder because he has the Blood Knight to deal with the 5/5, and he has Twin Emperor Veclor. Isn't he still dead?
I don't think he's dead. If he uses hero power to kill the Searing, he kills a Totem Golem. He does, there's a lot of damage coming in, but it's not quite there yet, because right now what's the problem for Hoej is he can't play Valiant to buff the minions since he's already used up 2 Overload this turn.
Sure. Bloodlust brings 12 power to the board, and there is 9 more, so it's 21, so there's no way to go with that. But and then you cannot really play Valiant.
But you could go for Tunnel Chug, Feral Spirit, if you really wanted. Then you can play it very passively as well. I'm not sure if it's necessarily a good idea. I don't dislike a Bloodlust in a similar spot just because you're flooding the board a bit.
As a removal card, yeah. Like, the only problem with Bloodlust is Dark Arakoa has 7 health, so there is no great way to remove it.
Flame Juggler RNG. But you have to throw away 2 3/3s into it, or 3 attack minions, and hope that this guy hits properly. But I like this no matter what, because you're replenishing the board, you're replacing your minions with new ones in Tunnel Chug and Feral Spirit. So even if you throw them away, I still think you're potentially okay.
Yeah, true. It looks good, and Bloodlust is still really strong. If not for Bloodlust, you still have a possible Thunderbluff Valiant. Feral Spirit are going to die, but they are no totems.
Man, these Mana Tides all game have been doing so much work for Hoej. This is insane. Yeah. He's always had one on board.
So what's open for AKAWonder? Twin Emperor Veclor looks good. You can play double 4/6 taunt and hero power as well. Just kill the 2 freeze, and you should be safe. And then you have Cthulhu next turn.
Yeah, you can clean up the board and probably put the Shaman in a position where he has to either Hex. And if you're able to clean up the board, I think that's, like, on its own a good enough reason to play the Twin Emps. I mean, one of the reasons people play Cthulhu is not for Cthulhu, it's for the Twin Emperors. Like, that card is the reason Cthulhu is even remotely viable competitively, right?
Yeah, and yesterday we actually had a moment where there was triple Emperor Veclor because of Bram Bronzebeard. That's
so we have 21 damage on board. Actually, we've got 23 with the Lava Shock right now.
And you probably go for it, because those Emperors...
you have to push so much into those minions, though. I don't know.
Well, if you... Like, Druid has only 5 cards, and you need to deal with this board somehow. And 4/6s are hard to deal with. Do you have any better way? Like, if you go for Valiant, you only buff your minions +2 attack. So it doesn't feel...
It's not enough,
Yeah. So Bloodlust to clear is not terrible. You do Bloodlust, you can run your... You can still, like, save Mana Tide Totem if you really want to, but if you don't want your Mana Tide Totem, you can run it into the 5/2.
I mean, you can
Then,
start with we can start with Lava Shock to unoverload yourself because you get those crystals
Yeah.
back, so you are killing a taunt for quote unquote free. Then using the Valiant is better than Bloodlust because in that spot you're able to throw away the irrelevant bodies that you have, and you're buffing whatever's left on board, and you're setting up a really nice follow-up push because the opponent does not want to kill everything on this board. And if you keep any totems at all, you're in a good spot.
yeah, that's true. So how big is Cthulhu at the moment?
11-11, I believe.
Let's see. You definitely want to kill Thunderbuff Valiant. You do have Mulch. You can also play Disciple to kill it and run your Black Knight into it. Run
I
the
don't mind
4/6.
that at all. Yeah, I don't think I mind that. If you play, say, Disciple with Klaxi, Ember Weaver, and Mulch that weaves in your entire mana, and you buff Cthulhu a little bit, and you're probably cleaning up the board.
Mana
But-
Totem is still going to survive, I feel.
Yeah, it's getting obnoxious, isn't it?
Oh,
Dude, this
man.
Manatide has drawn the entire deck from the Shaman player. That is not Keeper of Voldemon. Okay.
It
He's
can
gotta kill
deal
the
with...
Manatide. He has to kill the Manatide.
Yeah, the thing is, like, Keeper of Uluman can actually deal with Cthulhu. It's getting tough for Hoej. I mean, Bloodlust, it had some uses before, but then right now, with the board cleared, he might not find a spot to use it anymore.
Yeah, this is a really interesting situation because Hoej right now, he can use the Keeper to deal with a 4/4 if he wants to. It feels appealing just because you're trading your Chog right into it, but at that point, Flame Tongue does the same thing. You can Keeper something bigger, put your thing from below on the side, and probably hold on to the board.
Well, there is Cthulhu coming, and there is Ragnaros as well. So from Hoy's perspective, he's doing whatever he can. But the board is already big with the 4/10. And if you use your Keeper right here, you will not have answer for anything bigger that comes next.
You have to
unless
use the
it's a
Keeper.
pack.
You have to use it. You must use Keeper of Voldemon. Otherwise,
Yeah,
I think
I
you're
guess.
throwing the game away. Because if you don't force this 4/10 to trade negatively with your thing from below, then you're never pushing anything. And if you don't have a big board for Bloodlust next turn, your window of opportunity is gone. It is dead and gone, and nothing's going to come of it. So,
True. So Cthulhu is not that big yet. 11-11 is nothing. Is it 11 or is it? Oh, it's actually 13-13 now after the Disciple.
right.
But it's still a big creature that can deal with the board.
Well, speaking of dealing with the board, it did it pretty damned well, because that's exactly the clear, and there's no answer to Cthulhu unless a Hex gets top decked, so 2 turns away from now, this Cthulhu should pose a lethal, and Lightning Storm is not the answer he was looking for.
He can still get Stonecold Totem. It does block Cthulhu's attack. Ah,
Feels
missed.
bad, man.
Well,
I think AKAWonder has actually weathered down the aggression from the Shaman player.
he did, yeah. And this is the problem with Bloodlust that many people found before. Just the card is useless if you don't have the board, and many times you just trade your minions into minions. And at some point, like Bloodlust seems like a win more. Whenever I'm ahead on board and I'm in a position where I should win, I still win it. I don't need Bloodlust, and like if I'm behind, Bloodlust does not help me. So I do understand running Bloodlust in this deck specifically with the totems, but this time it proved to be useless. Or maybe Hoej was too conservative with the Bloodlust in his hand, just not using it in the past when he had 7 minions on board.
Yeah, there was a turn or two where he had the opportunity to use it as a clearing help, so just to assist him in wiping the board from the Druid. One of the things that we noticed was the kind of redundancy of Thunderblood Valiant with Bloodlust in that hand. They were both trying to accomplish the same thing, but one was temporary and put him ahead on board, or he cleared the board, and the other one was an investment, the Valiant, but that got completely defused by Mulch.
Yeah, definitely. Like even without Mulch, there was still a possibility to just kill it with Disciple and Black Knight attack. It would be less effective, but it worked really well for AKAWonder. And like I think at the moment the Cthulhu Druid is 100% win rate at least today, because Greenship had the deck as well.
The deck as well, and won with it. So all I want to know is if AKAWonder really has like a full Cthulhu lineup, because you alluded to like seeing multiple Cthulhuns, and I'm curious to see whether or not the rest of the decks are going to perform as well, because they don't have necessarily all the best class cards to make that type of deck work, but the Warlock also seems to be a Cthulhu list.
Yeah, it is a Cthulhu Reno deck. We've seen it yesterday. I think we've only haven't seen the Warrior because it got banned. So I would be excited to see the Cthulhu Warrior. But he does play the Cthulhu Reno log. And, it's an interesting deck because it has a couple of win conditions. Like, obviously, Cthulhu is one of them. But then you have Jaraxxus as well to be able to create Infernals. And those Cthulhu cards that are being played in this deck are not bad. Crazed Worshipper is a good taunt. It buffs Cthulhu. Then you have Usher of Souls. And obviously, Twin Emperor Vekler that you've mentioned. One of the biggest reasons that you play a Cthulhu deck.
Well, it looks like we're looking at the Faceless Shambler in Hoej's deck, which is a way to copy the stats of a friendly minion. So my assumption is, of course, there's going to be Mountain Giant or Twilight Drake. This can copy both the stats of both of these guys. It's pretty good late game, even if you get the Jaraxxus. Just pick up a big taunter.
We actually, it's curious because we've seen Hoej today and we haven't seen that card. We've seen Sogoth the Slitherer. That's another card you can actually copy with the Shambler, I believe.
Good lord, another 5/9. With taunt.
We actually talked about it, that it would be so broken if you have both Sogoths. Like, the Shambler at least can be targeted by removal cards, but it is like a second Sogoth that you play after the first one.
Well, Faceless Manipulator is better then, right? You just really punish them. Alright, so this is a pretty slow start. There was a consideration by Hoej there to play the Doomsayer to stop the Druid from extending on, the Warlock that is, from extending on the board, but he deemed it a bit too early, and he wants to cycle a bit more, see what is in his deck at this point.
So we just, this Brown Bronzebeard makes sense here.
Sure.
Is there a Shadow Bolt? Yeah, there is a Shadow Bolt, which will just deal with the Brown Bronzebeard. The Brown Bronzebeard, if it will survive, would be so good.
If he plays Doomsayer here, he's opening himself up to shenanigans with Abusive Sergeant that just remove the Doomsayer, and then you're back to square one. But on the off chance that it works, then, it's pretty good.
Yeah, high risk, high reward, but do you
kind of
really...
Argus even punishes you?
Yeah, Argus is a possibility, so he goes for the Shadow Ball. There's like too many we start going to the stars. Like, no.
Too many possibilities. So one of the things, though, that I didn't expect to see in AKAWonder's deck is this Doomcaller.
Yeah, it can actually bring Cthulhu back, so you can double Cthulhu. And I think previously he just played a Doomcaller as a body, like as a big guy on board, and Cthulhu never came back. But Warlock has a lot of spells that can deal damage as well. So the Hellfires and all the other stuff, it does wear your opponent out. And Cthulhu is a really lethal threat. And sometimes even like you have the board and you play Usher of Souls, and your board dies, so you get a lot of buffs to Cthulhu, and suddenly Cthulhu is like 16/16 or even bigger. It's a big creature that deals 16 damage.
Oh wow, I was gonna say this Doomsayer does not have an answer just yet, but the Defensive Argus comes in right in time for AKAWonder to clean it up by, just giving the extra bit of damage needed.
It becomes troublesome. There's only 3 minions. How do you remove them at this point of the game? Hellfire doesn't really kill anything beside the 2/3. And if AKAWonder forces Reno Jackson from Hoej will not be happy about it.
I kind of like the Colt Apothecary or the Spellbreaker. There's like 2 lines of play here that I see, one of which is a bit more mana efficient, you could say, with the Colt Apothecary. And what this does by using the Spellbreaker is it forces the opponent to do something with his Drake. This thing dies at some point, and you're close enough to getting Hellfire to work. Shadow Flame is now rather effective. So I really like Hoej's decision here.
Yeah, makes sense. And what about this turn? Do you start with Dark Peddler to see what you get, and you try to get a coil, then you go for Disciple of Cthulhu to deal with the 4/3?
Or Finley. Oh
how
god.
good is Finley here?
Maybe late game. Maybe very late game it can save you or give you that hunter hero power. I've seen it done. It's just very situational.
I've seen AKAWonder actually at some point take the Lesser Heal. Well, not in this deck, but a lot of people say that Life Tap is the best hero power ever. But I've seen AKAWonder actually exchange it and also get some value out of it.
So if the game is about fighting for board, and you've got a board already, then the Lesser Heal is great. In fact, the Priest Hero Power is probably one of the best ones once you're on board. The only problem is it's not very good at getting you on board.
True. So I have to assume that Cthulhu is already at 10 attack because he didn't play Disciple, or was there a reason not to play? How many cards did buff Cthulhu actually? Did he play like Brand
We've
with?
only seen this one, and it's only an 8/8 for now. So what'll happen next for AKAWonder is, like, what he didn't want to do here is probably commit too many minions to the board and keep the weak ones. Like the coil could be useful on the Drake. It's just an additional death to Hellfire. So why keep the Drake and play Disciple if anyway both will die to the same removal spell?
Sure, it makes sense. And it's not like he really wants to play Vekler on next turn anyway. He can still tap, and that Crazed Worshipper is a nice pickup there to be able to live tap and still play it this turn.
Yeah, you probably want to double trade into this to avoid Shadow Flame disasters.
Yep, just trading the board, tap first, obviously, to see what's up.
Reno Cthulhu Warlock, is this working?
Well, this is what it is. It's basically the Reno Cthulhu Warlock.
But how is this working? I mean, it is working from what we see here. I don't know how consistently it does this, but right now the list is definitely looking like it's got some potential if refined properly.
Yeah, you haven't seen this list before. It's quite fun. I've even set a build with a Spreading Madness. But there's a lot of minions you can play. So
Sure.
it did. It's not good, but people tested it in the beginning, and basically it's
Color
like
that
Reno
surprises
deck.
me, I guess.
Yeah, it's like it's like Reno deck. Every card is a one-off, so it's like a solid Reno deck. And you exchange some of the minions that you play in the Reno deck for the Cthulhu minions. And there is not that many of them, but there is enough of them to actually make Cthulhu a threat.
Well, exactly what we were talking about earlier with the possibility of silencing. Now, one of the big problems of the Faceless Shambler is, well, exactly the Spellbreaker. On the flip side, at least, there's only one silence for two possible good targets.
True. So Shambler is an interesting card. I think most of the control players actually like it in those lists because of the Mountain Giant, of the Twilight Drake, and Silence. Like Reno Lock does run one Silence, and some control paladins they have Spellbreaker as well, but most of the decks they do not have Silence at all.
Alright, so AKAWonder life tapping there, picking up the Doomsayer at the end of the turn. Not really going to be doing too much here. The upside of playing only 3 minions, of course, is, well, he's always playing around the MC tech. And this is a very important turn, because the way you play this out means that you either will or will not get the initiative on 9. I think Sogoth might give him enough of a bigger sense of safety, and he might be a bit reckless with the Shadow Flame if he's like more willing to use it this way.
Well, Shadow Flame, you do clear. You do buff Cthulhu a bit, but
maybe Reno Sun Fury. I don't know. It's
you're not under a risk yet. By the way, I want to talk about this Doomsayer a bit from AKAWonder. There is a really good sequence of plays where on turn 10 you Twisting Nether, you play Doomsayer. Most likely Doomsayer will proc, and then on the next turn you play Cthulhu, so you clear your way for Cthulhu to actually deal all the damage to face. This is one of the ways how this deck actually works and wins as well.
It seems to make sense that you would want to use the Doomsayer and Twisting Nethers in this deck anyway. And the biggest problem with Cthulhu decks is exactly this: when there's any board at all, it usually doesn't do too much. I mean, like, we all hear crazy stories of priests buffing Cthulhu to like 36, and they, mow you down with it, even if you have a board. But for the most part, Cthulhu competitive play has been, 16-16 at the biggest. You'll find like 20-20 occasionally when both players are playing very slowly and they're both being greedy. So it's pretty common to see a full board when you're playing Cthulhu, and it's rare that you get to clear it up, except, of course, with Doomsayer and Nether.
Yeah, well, you do still have the Shadow Flame, and you do still have Hellfire, I believe, in this deck. I'm not sure about Demon Wrath, depends on the build, but it has more or less the same amount of removal as the standard Reno Warlock.
Is this the boring Hellfire Demon Wrath turn?
How boring is that? Do you have to go that way? Can you just maybe...
Sogoth is pretty good too, but Nether would punish you for extending a big 9-drop into it. But I guess it's fun if you Nether, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, if you play Sogoth and if it baits Nether, you're like probably saying sure, because it's just one minion almost.
Big Game Hunter. So what this BGH lets him do is feel a bit safer in the advent that Cthulhu comes out, so the Siphon Soul can be used a tiny bit more liberally. Whereas in many cases, you want to keep Siphon Soul for the bigger dudes, and that includes very often Cthulhu, Sylvanas, Emperor Thorson.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And this turn, I believe this is just Cthulhu chosen. Well, disciple of Cthulhu and Veclor.
I mean, I would life tap to check what I can find, because if you don't play, what if you don't have to play Twin Emps, right? Okay, so he absolutely wants to play Twin Emps. I guess it's always good. There's no point at which playing Twin Emps is bad, especially when you get the second body. I'm just wondering if maybe fetching that Cthulhu as fast as possible.
I think you still have time. You still have a lot of removal cards in your deck, and at the moment AKAWonder is the one with the board presence, and Hoej has to deal with it somehow. So Soggoth still a possible play, not doing that much, but what are the stats? What are the stats in Soggoth?
5/9. I think it's really good. It contests this board very nicely. It puts everything into Shadow Flame range as a follow-up, so I would be happy with Soggoth here. You're only getting punished if the opponent plays like Sylvanas Power Overwhelming, Sylvanas Shadow Flame, and then because there's 4 minions after that play, then you can usually MC Tech and maybe snatch something good.
Yeah, it should be fine. I'm trying to think about other plays as well. Shadow Flame is useless more or less, and it's just Siphon Soul doesn't do much.
Basically, maybe it's fine. I don't know. Maybe Siphon Soul's okay.
I think Soggoth is good in a way because even though you lose it to this board, you set up a really good Shadow Flame next turn.
Yeah, exactly. It's the setup that you're doing by doing this that's really amazing. And like the Twin Emps are great, but when they both run into a 5/9, they're suddenly a lot worse.
So they just stop. Yeah, you just need more Shadow Bolt. Well, you would love to Shadow Bolt this, but you can't. Cannot be targeted. It's like a big fiery dragon.
And more Cthulhu support coming down on the board. Okay. Looks like there's going to be another turn where you're going to have to deal with a mid-sized board. Okay, Emperor Thorson is... I might be happy to play Emperor alone. I don't know. How much damage is there on board? We're looking at 11 right now. You don't have any more Reno, so perhaps that is too much.
Yeah, 11 and Cthulhu is 16, so you need to start thinking about it. That would be 26. Minus the Emperor, right? So like 11 plus 16 will be 27, 22. So you're not dead to Cthulhu yet, I believe.
Even if everything goes face, you're probably still okay. The only issue is, like, because you have Jaraxxus you want to play after Emperor, which is why I'd advocate for Emperor as early as possible. Because Jaraxxus is going to be your comeback mechanism if something goes wrong.
Does it really? Because, then Cthulhu is lethal if it actually clears the board. So Twisting Nether. But I do believe Jaraxxus is actually a great card in this matchup as well. Siphon Soul.
You can push damage with Siphon Soul Shadow Bolt. You keep your game plan going. You haven't stopped one bit, and you just keep pressuring the other Warlock.
Yeah, and you've seen Reno already from Hoej, so...
Don't even have to bolt, in fact.
So for now, it looks like AKAWonder is in a good position. He doesn't even have Cthulhu, but he's the one who has initiative. He's pushing for damage. And Jaraxxus with a 6/6 would be scary. I would like to see something else, maybe.
Yeah, Siphon Soul with a trade on the 3/3 is really good here. So what this does is save you mana, number one, so it lets you life tap into that Cthulhu. What Hoej has to be scared about, though, is what's behind this removal. Let's assume he clears up the board. Like, what's behind that? He knows it's a 17/17, so he should be able to answer it on paper. I would sacrifice probably the Mind Control tech. And, yeah, if I'm going to Shadow Flame...
I'm just thinking about this Doomcaller a bit, and it actually might be really good in those mirror matches or like control games, because dealing with one Cthulhu for a control, if the game goes long enough, like Cthulhu gets like 18/18, it's difficult, but it's possible. But you know, when you hit fatigue and there is another Khatoon waiting for you, it's really deadly.
Yeah, one of the things though that Cthulhu doesn't do is deal with Sylvanas at all, because if Sylvanas is already on the board and Cthulhu kills her, the interruption happens and she steals him, if I recall. The battle cry doesn't happen fully, if I'm not mistaken.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen
Yeah.
it, but I've heard that it actually happens, which is so weird because if you play Yogg-Saron, if Yogg-Saron kills itself, the spells continue flying.
Right, but like if you play, let's say, Yogg-Saron and you kill like multiple explosive sheep somehow, and Yogg-Saron, like, do they blow up as the spells resolve? I imagine they do.
Yeah, I think that
So-
everything happens like a spell goes, a result.
So that would probably explain why Cthulhu kind of stops midway, because each hit is probably considered its own little mini spell.
Sure.
Since they just add more and more to the animation or the sequence. And that Cthulhu is making itself desirable by hiding at the bottom of the deck right now.
It's just coming. It's so big, you know, it takes time for the cultist to summon it fully, and when it actually awakens, your nightmare begins.
I mean, one of the things that's really scary though for Hoej is, how do I deal with this? I mean, this Doomsayer is either setting up a Cthulhu that likely kills me. Oh goodness, you've got to be kidding. This is exactly the nightmare scenario. Because it's exactly Cthulhu lethal if he doesn't deal with the Doomsayer.
Yeah.
You might have to Siphon Soul this thing.
Possibly. Just that. But even if you Siphon Soul the Doomsayer,
What?
it's still a really bad situation if the Cthulhu comes.
But it's much better, in this case, I'd say. If you don't Siphon Soul, then you're in trouble. Like, that's when things get really wrong. Oh, wow.
So, if you
Grand
assume
double
there's...
peddler. Let's just do this.
Maybe
Gotta
we'll
roll
get
the dice.
PO and something else to be able to go through with the imp. There is an coil, sure. And you just need to get a PO or this. Well, Soulfire will be too risky, I believe. There is PO. You can kill the Doomsayer.
Yeah, with the Elven Archer. And the Elven Archer is actually better than the Mortal Coil in this spot, since you've both drawn so much.
Fatigue, yeah.
And you've already got removal for the Cthulhu and the big drops that might come out later, so definitely the safer pick here. He does find what he wants, though, so that's a definite upside for him this turn. He doesn't want to sacrifice the M-Gang boss, it looks. He's going to Siphon Soul it anyway. And he's...
Ooh.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. How many big targets there are? There is a Hellfire, so he can put Hoej even lower. I still like the Shadow Bolt, though, I feel. So, is it Shadow Bolt and Hellfire just to clear the board, and it puts Hoej even lower?
I
Shadow
wouldn't
Bolt is-
dislike this, since you can always weave in the Farseer at the end of the sequence, which isn't half bad. Or alternatively, of course, you ping him in the face, but I think Farseer is
You're
a tiny
fine.
bit better.
Steady shot every turn. Go face with the Cthulhu Reno Lock. It's actually a hidden face deck. Like we haven't realized it yet, Noxious, but it's actually an
aggro.
active- Yeah,
Oh,
it's
God.
aggro.
Oh, so he doesn't want to clean up the M-Gang boss, it seems, as of right now.
Yeah, that's awkward. Like he should, if he wants to Hellfire, he should probably.
And
Shadow
he's not
Bolt.
Hellfiring, then he's just playing Sylvanas. Yep.
All right.
The pressure is pretty big still. It's mounting up, and it's definitely favoring AKAWonder right now. Twisting Nether needs to come out. Okay, I mean, Sylvanas can steal Sylvanas. So there's that.
Well, you can kill Sylvanas and give either a 1/1 Imp or an Elven Archer.
You don't
To your
expect
point.
Power Overwhelming to be in that deck, right? Since it's so heavy on the Reno combo as opposed to trying to kill you on the back of Leroy.
Yeah. So what do you think about killing Sylvanas? You're left with one of the 1/1s, and then you just play Giant for 7.
That sounds reasonable. Do you know if there's a BGH in the list? Because if you have the information, you might not want to do it. AKAWonder is just gone. I think he wants to get a drink, but no one's coming to serve him. Can't
Alright,
do
he's
everything
back.
yourself, Wonder. I was gonna. Oh, okay. So it looks like we're gonna see the Elven Archer.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then you want to play a big target. I do believe there is no Big Game Hunter because you have to make some cuts. And you have Disciple and some other things.
Well, do you not? Well, I mean, that's the question I want to know. Like, did it show up on the VOD yesterday? Because it's right now, it's in AKAWonder's hand, so he's got the answer.
Oh, sure, sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it actually showed up on the stream.
It's a pretty good hand too if he wants to Demon Wrath. He's not gonna do it, but he could have. Full cleanup.
I just fully missed this Big Game Hunter. I haven't seen it. I'm just getting blind knocks.
It's alright, dude. We all get old. Some get
Yeah.
older faster, but we all get old.
Remember the times when Big Game Hunter was for free mana?
Remember the times when Cthulhu Reno Lock didn't seem so good? Oh, wow.
It does good now.
Yeah, that's a... I mean, I'm surprised at the effectiveness of the deck because I guess it only works out against very greedy decks on the other side.
Not necessarily, like it really works like a Reno Lock. It just has an extra punch because you have Demon Wrath and Hellfire for those aggro decks. You have a similar amount of healing because you have Brown Bronzebeard and Farseer. You have
You put
extra
minions
punch.
on the board, yeah.
Yeah, and then basically you have a Cthulhu as a finisher. It works pretty well versus Paladin because you have Jiraxus like contra Paladin, and there are not that many aggro decks by the way because there's only like Zoo and a Face Shaman.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have to go all in, and he does go all in. I was gonna say one of the only ways he wins this is if his opponent does not have Cthulhu. The 6/6 can at least soak up some of that Cthulhu damage. So assuming 3 goes face, and Cthulhu dodges the Jirax's face, he could technically live. And look at that, there's no life tap. Not yet.
Yeah, so for now, what do you do? Like you kind of maybe would like to clear this.
Hellfire Reno. You trade. I mean, you could attack with the little imp. You Hellfire, you trade the imp gang boss, and you Reno yourself back up.
Sure.
And then, you start over with a full
Yeah.
health pool against the Jiraxus while having Hunter hero power and your own Jiraxus in the back. I think that's definitely a good consideration.
Yeah, and the opposing Jiraxus is also at 11.
Yeah.
And you do have the hero power, so it's not bad.
There might be something a bit better, but if there is, I'm not seeing it. Everything else feels like it's mid-range. Like, you're feeding him value out of his answers. If you're playing, like, the big 8-drop, you play Jiraxus, you're putting yourself dangerously low on health. Earthering Farseer is a half measure, because it's not really a full play.
Is he just
So he's
ignoring
not
the
help-
6/6 for now?
Yeah, he's not playing Hellfire here. There's no way. He's just
Right.
ignoring it, which is fine. You have seen Shadow Flame earlier.
So he's going for the full damage value, and he's seen Reno already. He's seen a Siphon Soul. I believe he's seen a Farseer. So there's not that much heal remaining in the deck.
So if you're Hoej, do you play Ragnaros or the Kodo? Kodo feels safer since you're putting a 6/6 anyway down on this board.
Sure.
Wow, AKAWonder is on the back foot. There must be something here.
Oh!
Acidic Swamp Ooze is a great draw,
Yeah, it deals with a weapon with its hands.
and you can even Shadow Flame it afterwards after playing Hellfire. So that's a big cleanup.
So you can deal 5 damage this turn. There's only 3 damage remaining. So you basically win with Jirax's next turn if there are no taunts. So what about Hellfire, Hero Power, and
Demon Wrath.
can you fiddle in? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you could kill the Kodo on top of that. So
Sure. And you are basically at 30.
have you seen Argus yet? I think we've seen Sun Fury, but not the Argus.
Yeah, we haven't seen Argus yet.
So maybe pinning your host on that Jiraxus feels a bit awkward. But I mean, I like your game plan. It's very proactive, and you can still fit in the Ooze if you want to remove the weapon. It's all about the Argus not being there, and if it is there, you're gonna have to sacrifice something.
Sure. And like even without like you basically have a win with Jiraxus next turn, and if there is Argus, maybe you will actually get Cthulhu because he's almost at the end of his deck and Cthulhu
Wait.
is still there.
14, 17. Yeah, Rag is close enough to lethal, but not quite. Oh man, because I was looking at this on like double PO with Rag. That's an extra 16, but there's not enough on board to push it. It's only going to bring him down to 2 health.
Well, it's basically over, right? But the thing is, like, when you play a deck that's a combo deck, let's say a Cthulhu, a Reno, and if you're able to win with the deck without drawing the Cthulhu, it means that the deck is good by itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's the assumption. I feel like every single turn that he's played something like a standard Reno lock, it's worked out for him, and there hasn't been too much of a downside to playing the Cthulhu cards, which usually is my biggest worry when I play Cthulhu decks. In this case, though, it's been kind of the opposite. He might play Sylvanas here over Rag if he wants to play around Cthulhu. If it happens to kill Sylvanas, then he's good because it ends up stealing the Cthulhu. But if Jiraxis hits, then the point is moot.
Oh man,
Still no Cthulhu. I think it is actually the last card in his deck.
Yeah,
I think there's one card left. Oh man. Like, oh
Jiraxis
gods, they're coming, but not really.
Come on, Cthulhu, this is my time to shine again. All right,
Well,
so nicely done. AKAWonder takes the second game of Hoej, and he has a huge lead here with both Cthulhu decks.
I don't know what to say, man. I mean, Cthulhu seems to be working out. I'm not a big fan of the card. I think, on average, the power level that it has isn't exactly exciting, but AKAWonder is making it work. So I'm hoping that we see more of that Cthulhu goodness and maybe change my mind on the card and the archetypes it fits in.
Yeah. I still remember the quote that actually RDU put in whenever like I was visiting Blizzard with some other pro players and casters, and we got a presentation with Whispers of the Old Gods,
Sure,
and then
yeah.
Cthulhu comes out, and RDU just shouts at everybody else, doesn't have charge, because without charge it will not be playable. But apparently it is playable, and in a big tournament, $50,000, $20,000 goes to the winner, and AKAWonder is just sprinting. Well, he's in a lower bracket, but kind of sprinting with his Cthulhu decks.
Yeah, and he's going to be playing his mage with... you mentioned Cthulhu was a big running theme in his decks, and if any fit works for Cthulhu decks, I would say it is a standard tempo mage. If all you have to play is Cold Sorcerer and
Sure.
Disciples, you can definitely make that work, even in mage.
I think we haven't seen Cthulhu from AKAWonder in this deck, but I don't hate the idea. I think it really fits. Like, even if you play Cthulhu as an 8/8 on turn 10, because you're playing Tempo Mage, your opponent will be low enough to die when Cthulhu is being played. But we've actually seen a lot of players experimenting with Yogg-Saron in those decks.
Yeah, and Yogg-Saron is... I prefer Yogg-Saron to Cthulhu, even in competitive play. I know some people have been advocating for a ban of Yogg-Saron in competitive play, actually, because of the amount of variance that it comes with in many cases.
So when are we going to see Randuin Rin with Yogg-Saron?
It's been done, but, the metagame has shifted to where everything works with tempo, and unfortunately for me, well, Randuin Rin doesn't do so well against tempo decks. You just kind of get rolled over on curve.
Oh man, no Millhouse Mana Storm shenanigans.
Yeah, not today. Maybe one day, but
Sure. So
that's a rough opener, man. That is a really rough opener.
you can go Forbidden Flame into the 1/3 to deal with it. There's actually
it would
cool
be the
sorcerer.
only good play. Yeah, I was gonna say this is the only good play that you have this turn if you want to play on curve.
Yeah. And this is something I talked about with Talon Grace yesterday. A lot of people seen Forbidden Flame and said, like, hey, the card is bad. You play 4, it deals only 4 damage. But Cool Sorcerer makes this card really good, especially because the spell damage, like, when you play it, you pay less and you get more damage. And spell damage can actually equalize the cost there.
Right, it equalizes the usually it's a drawback to pay that much for the damage, but because you have so many sources of spell damage, you're good. And the fact that they even have Flame Waker means that, not only is Cold Sorcerer a good card, but Flame Waker makes it good as well, since it acts as pseudo spell damage slapped on top. Mana Worm gets buffed from it. There's a lot of versatility to it. You can find lethals sometimes when the card deals 0 damage, but it buffs the rest. And that's the only point you're looking to get.
Yeah, definitely. But still, this board is super awkward for AKAWonder to deal with. You have the Flame Waker, you don't have any more spells, but overall, you do want to deal damage to your opponent. And Armor Smith, Acolyte of Pain, this will give Hoej both armor and card draw.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'd play this turn out. I'm tempted to play... Would you ever play Flame Waker alone?
Probably not worth it.
You have seen a flame... I guess the Ravaging Ghoul punishes you. Sorcerer's Apprentice with Fireball is rather bad. I mean, you could always go for Fireball in the Armor Smith and just set up a Faceless Summoner.
Yeah, I think
you could try that.
That might be the play, because if you just don't do anything, that's pretty bad, because you are a tempo deck. and you do know you play Faceless Summoner into Faceless Summoner, so if you can reduce the armor gain from your opponent, that should be fine. That should be good enough.
Yeah, well, this is also another alternative line of play that is possibly better, simply because it doesn't get punished as hard by Ravaging Ghoul. But one of the things that the Sorceress does is it forces a trade with the little slime. And look at that. Just like this, the card that would have punished AKAWonder here gets drawn by Hoej, picks up the Ravaging Ghoul, which still works very well. Still works very well.
It's really nice, and Ravaging Ghoul into... I would basically Ravaging Ghoul and trade my... Oh, he's going for the Battle Rage first. Interesting.
So he's playing with Frothing this turn instead of playing the Ravaging Ghoul, because he's hoping to get even more mileage out of this Acolyte.
And this is the card that a lot of people hyped up. Faceless Summoner. It can actually bring Mukla at 5/5. It can bring Felguard, but also it can bring an... well, Ravaging Ghoul is... not Ravaging Ghoul, but the Raging Worgen is pretty good. One of the worst ones, I think, are Alarmobots for 3 mana.
Iron Beak Owl is definitely not good.
Yeah, oh man.
Iron Beak Owl, I can confirm, is rather bad. Especially against this deck, but, you know, in many spots you can find use for it. My favorite one to get is probably the Scarred Crusader.
Crusader?
Yeah, the 3/1 with Divine Shield seems so good when the opponent has to deal with a 5/5 and then 2 pings or 2 damage sources on one other target.
I will still take Mukla as a vanilla 5/5.
Yeah, sure. I'll take 2 5/5s for 6 mana. Thank you.
It's a good deal.
Yeah, getting horrendous flashbacks from Druids. It's going like innervate. Wait, what?
We actually had a card like that in WoW TCG. For 6 mana, you get double 5/5. One has charge and the other has taunt.
Yeah, not all designers keep their game alive, so that's exactly what happened to that. Unfortunately for WoW TCG, I'm afraid it went the way of the King Crushers of this world. So he's gonna trade into the 5/5 anyway. Make sure that this doesn't get him too much mileage. Again, you know, you can redo this or set up a good Ethereal Conjurer threatening the 2/6 or forcing a trade in the War Axe. And Ravaging Ghoul, you called it earlier.
I did call it away.
It was a mistake, but it wasn't a mistake.
I was so confused. It was like Raging Worgen. I was like, what? It was supposed to be Ravaging Ghoul.
Now the second Faceless Summoner is like, we heard you, casters. Oh man. So this is a pretty okay turn, just given the fact that you have the Ravaging Ghoul in your hand as Hoej. I think Hoej right now is looking dominant in this game so far.
Absolutely. And you know, this is so weird, but Faceless Summoner on paper, it's so good. Like for 6 mana, you get a 5/5 and the free drop. But I've been playing versus many Tempo Mages, and I just win all those games. I feel like the other classes got better tools than those.
Have you played Wild? Because in Wild, I can tell you right now, it's a different story because of Mad Scientist. It's a very different world when you play Tempo Mage for Tempo and you play, you know, minions on curve, as when you play the Mage that we have nowadays, which is a lot more spell-based, right? Where you're just dropping spell after spell with combo plays, such as Flamewaker, Mana Worm. And like all it took this game for you to maybe spot a big difference was for the Mana Worm not to get killed by Coin Fiery War Axe. And maybe then the summoner would have looked completely bonkers.
There are still some ways to remove it though. Executes, you can even run like Corcron into it if you want to, with some whirlwind effects. But so far it's just it's not doing much.
Yeah, it's not even setting up a Flame Strike. It's doing nothing.
Tough.
This Blood of a Brave, man. Ouch.
It's so brave, and 5 attack is a lot. So you go for Conjurer to get anything from it.
That didn't quite hit the mark. I mean, all of this just feels a bit awkward. Good thing you have a Frostbolt at least to use with every single card in your hand at the moment.
Yeah, like was he looking for some AoEs, like probably Flame Strike?
Sure, Flame Strike on turn 9 with a ping deals with the 5 health left over on the Bloodhoof Brave. So it would have likely been the best possible outcome, but now he's going to have to pull an early trigger on it, I think.
Can you keep it for the Flamewaker turn and just deal 4 damage with it? Maybe like ping the 5/5? Oh, he's going to limit the damage, sure, because the 6/3 contests the 5/5, makes sense.
Exactly, so right now there's no good answer coming from the Warrior side to your 6/3. On paper.
In theory. Oh, yeah.
On paper, that's the case. In practice, Tempo Warrior says something very different. This hand tells another story, and it's actually a really good hand there for Hoy. He's got 1,000 ways to handle this board if he wants to.
Definitely. Like he can even just go Malkorok, then execute the 6-free, and with the weapon possibly just kill the 2-free.
I wouldn't play Malkorok ever this far ahead, I think. Is that
Why not?
wrong? I don't know. If something goes wrong and you end up with a Curse Blade and the opponent has a janky hand, your board's gone.
Oh, you feel like the card
I guess it's all right. I mean, I feel like right now the 2/4 drops are just very safe, and there's no reason to risk the win, right?
Well, you can have
You're-
Taskmaster actually as well.
Sure, with the execute, there's so many lines of play that work here.
All right. By the way, there is this Ratham we talked about in the very beginning of the day today. This is the first time we're seeing it, so I wonder if it will actually work for Hoy, if it will perform.
Goodness gracious, this mage deck is whiffing left and right. I feel like if you're trying to beat Tempo Warrior, you're not going to be able to do it through Mana Worm unless they whiff on the Fiery War Axe. Because one of the things that happens is, they play cards like Arathi Weaponsmith. They trade very well in the early game. Frothing Berserker is a bigger threat than your Flame Waker in many aspects, depending on who plays first. The Bloodhoof Braves eat up fireballs. Like, how does AKAWonder push this board off?
He might just die here as well. If you Taskmaster the Bloodhoof Brave, you have 12, 13 damage, and then you Malkorok into Gorhal and just win right there.
Wait, you're a very optimistic player, but I like the play nonetheless. I like the play. I would start with Malkorok, probe the waters, see what's in it. Again, the safe play is just clear off the 3/2.
Arc Thief is also a good card.
That's great, yeah. Nimsh is like, oh, we have lethal here. Just Malkorok into Gorhal, just casually.
Please, obviously.
Yeah,
You
that
always-
sounds gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, I just like Malkorok as a card, and I do see the reasoning not to play it because you are afraid that you can get something like Curse Blade and give a mage a chance to come back. Where with this board, it will be really hard. Even though he might have Kabbalist Tome, it's still like 5 mana. That's taking 5 mana, so you will not be able to do enough to come back on this board. And 7/8, good on its own. Did he take like +10/+10?
Yeah, he did the Lantern of Powers there, and he's gonna checkmate well done this game because he's got an empty handful of nothing against a board that is rather big and too big for his minions to remove. So Hoy is gonna be winning this game after all. So we'll see the mage again from AKAWonder, and I hope for him that it's not his weak spot.
It might be, like Tempo Mage at the moment seems to be pretty bad in the metagame. Like I haven't seen that much Mage on ladder, and most of the people they do pick the Freeze Mage, especially the super combo damage heavy Freeze Mages that we've seen from Dr. Hippie and Firebat. So I don't know, man. But it is a Tempo Mage. It can win sometimes if it really curves out and just finishes the game with the fireballs. So it has the chance, but you need to have this go hand with Mana Worm, coin Mana Worm into Sorcerer.
Or maybe maybe a water elemental on curve is good enough. I mean, sure, it doesn't deal with Bloodhoof Braves as well as Mage used to be able to deal with Warrior minions, because now Warrior's got a ton of options in the early/mid game. But against something like Shaman, right, which is exactly what we're running into, I feel like the Mage has a much better chance. If they dodge the Tunnel Trog openers, they should be fine. And even if they don't, occasionally they'll just sweep with a really good Arcane Missiles RNG. Flamewaker takes the board, and they also are pretty hard to remove lest Lightning Storm comes up.
Yeah, so we need to see AKAWonder pulling a really good hand. Looking at Hoy, he has an okay opening. This is not a Trog opening, but still. Flame Tongue into the Argent Squire, and then you play Tasker Totemic. You reduce, and you go into Think from Below, because that's 2 totems you play.
Goodness.
Do you go for it right now? I
Yeah,
guess
you go for it all day. Just because Flame Tongue comes up afterwards, right?
Sure.
If it wasn't for Flame Tongue, I might not. But in this exact spot, it's hard to say no. And wow.
It's the best, probably, even, because the Thing from Below will still be playable in turn 4.
Okay.
Just
now, you need. Like, if you're AKAWonder, you need to hit those Arcane Missiles next turn with the Flamewaker. They need to do so much to clear this up.
There will be how many missiles hitting? 7? I believe 7.
Right, 7 will be going out. 3 from the missiles, 1 from the coin, and 1 from the missiles themselves with Flamewaker. So, I mean, it's 7 damage spreading over a total of 8 health. So,
yeah.
I mean, 38 health and 4 targets. It's pretty tough to kill the things exactly that you're looking to kill, but you really just have to kill 2 out of 3 minions, whichever those are. Doesn't matter which ones.
So how are you still thinking about Flame Tongue or Flame Juggler? I don't think Flame Juggler is any good in this spot, especially if you miss the free 2.
So if you played Flame Juggler, then you're not committing to the Flame Juggler. I mean, to the thing from below, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now you are, which seems.
It's not like you're committed, like, but it's probably just the available play that's probably best at the moment.
I wouldn't be surprised to see an Arcane Intellect here if he wants to play it a bit slower and try to fetch some more. Like, I don't know if he plays Arcane Blast, but this could have been a decision that changed the way the game would play out. And this is a really good start for him. Oh my God, unbelievable!
Wow. Is he
doesn't
just
snipe it. This is unbelievable.
Oh my
He dodged the face. He dodged the face.
He did dodge the face, but the free one is still alive.
But it needs to go with this play, and it works. Okay.
Wow.
This would have been the ultimate. I mean, this would have been so bad for Hoej if this Flame Juggler had missed.
Yeah, it would be troublesome, but then Hoej still has available Tasker Toteming into the 5/5 next turn, which is pretty sweet. Even though there's a 6.
I'm just mind blown that this Flamewaker play even worked. Oh my goodness, no, not this story again.
Wow.
Nimsh, Hoej is mad, like these Manatides, man.
I know, right? And at this point, it's a great card to get because he doesn't have any more card draw. And AKAWonder's hope was like, hey, he's running out of cards. If I get rid of this board, then maybe he will not draw anything. But he just get another Manatide Totem as well off the top.
Yeah, you just gotta hope that your Arcane Intellect gives you something good. Forbidden Flame, again, is a great card to play in this deck because of its flexibility. And we didn't really highlight this, but because we didn't know that Archmage was in the list, but it makes a free Fireball late in the game. If it's only used up as a Fireball generator, sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
Oh my God! There's no way you're playing all this, is there?
Wait,
I don't even know what's going on.
No, I think you might want to play the Harrison Jones to have a buddy on board with the Trog. And,
come on, man. This is beautiful.
It is quite funny, yes. He will
No,
not...
you want Lightning Storm, right? I don't know. It's just...
No, come on. You can trade into this board easily.
I really want to play one more Manatide, honestly. Like, I want 2 Manatides, and I want to kill the Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Mana Worm. That is what I want to do right now, if I'm him.
Sure. It's okay.
It's okay. The guy's he's got an Arcane Intellect every turn. How is that okay? This is insane. I don't even understand what's going on.
And you can't even kill it with a Blizzard. If you have a Blizzard in your deck, which I assume he doesn't because it's Tempo Mage.
Wow.
So okay, Noxious, you're playing a Tempo Mage and you're behind on board on and behind on tempo. What do you do?
You top deck this.
It kills one of the Manatide Totems.
Yeah, it's already a decent start considering where you were a minute ago.
But they did their work. Definitely. He still has a lot of cards. He can deal with the... Do you even lightning? I would probably not Lightning Storm this board yet.
I don't mind it since you've already seen everything, right? You've already seen Mana Worm, Sorcerer Apprentice, a Flamewaker, Water Ellie. I think you've seen enough of his cards to be happy to play Storm.
Sure. I think like you might Storm because there are not many great alternatives. Like if you don't Storm, you would have to...
No, there's no way
I guess I can
this.
Reviter with the 1/1 that's 4/4.
And Manatide.
Sure. Let's just double up again.
When in doubt. Wow.
And AKAWonder is like, well, this is sad. At least he's not dealing that much damage to me. And Hoej is at full health.
So I will say this about the Tuskar Totemic right now. The RNG, because Vitality Totem was, live, was not necessarily worth it, as much as it is now, because now you've cut down to Totem Golem and Manatide, as well as Flame Tongue, as far as the good ones. So I think the RNG on Totemic is right now very relevant, and it pushes Shaman in a really odd direction with the RNG, because now between the hero power and the lightning storm rolls, and I feel like if there's enough RNG, it kind of equals out.
Yeah, because at the moment Shaman has a lot of strong cards, but
Right.
you do when you play Shaman, you do accept that RNG. The face Shaman is probably the best version of the deck because it has limited RNG. Like most of the cards, they deal specific numbers instead of random ones. But the guys at Navi, like Hoej, Ostkaka, and Sixo, they do decide to play the mid-range deck instead.
Yeah, this is an interesting decision. He almost thought about lightning storming again to keep the Trog alive and play the Thing from Below, or Feral Spirit and Thing from Below. I would value keeping the Trog alive here just because of the fact that it's gonna keep getting buffed up by your follow-ups, and at 5 damage a turn, you've got a 3-turn clock on this mage.
Yeah, it's quite big. And Mage has limited mana overall. Like Ragnaros doesn't seem that great. You as Hoej draw cards.
Wow.
You have Bloodlust in your deck as well that can just win the game in one big sweep.
Thunderblood Valiant as well, another out that would buff this board, and the Angry Manatides nicely. He's gonna try to go for the Ragnaros RNG to set up good fireballs in the future. He doesn't see not much of a point in trying to extend this any further.
And is this enough? This is 10 plus 4. 14, he's 2 off. Unless, can he go? No, he actually has 2 Feral Spirit. So he goes for Flame Tongue Totem and then plays Feral Spirit, and he should have enough because Feral Spirit will buff.
Yeah, he does have enough, yeah. He has exactly lethal, I think.
Yeah, so it's 10 plus 4, 14 plus 2 from Feral Spirit. He has mana for it.
He needs not to make the mistake, though, right? He needs not to make the mistake of playing Feral Spirit first, because then the Flame Tongue cannot be played.
Sure. So Hoej was counting it a couple of times, I believe. All right, Hoej, you got this, bro. I know it's late. It's almost 11 p.m. right here in Europe. Yes.
He's doing the math. He's doing the math.
Yeah, he's checking Overload on the Feral Spirit just in case, you know?
Did it get changed? Did Shaman get buffed? Nah, they didn't. They're still bad.
All right, he got
man.
this. So it's a tie, Nox. It's a tie, 2-2, and this mage whiffs again. And I don't know, like, what deck can it snipe from Hoej? So like,
I can't really see much. Like the Warlock is still alive, so you could get the Warlock done.
So basically, wait. So what decks? Hoej won with the Shaman, and Hoej won with Warrior.
There's Warlock and Paladin left, I think, for Hoej right now, unless I'm mistaken. So between the Warlock and the Paladin, Paladin's going to wipe your board, but if you can put enough pressure on them, I'm sure you can pull it off. It's just going to be a little clunky. The fact that he's got Archmage Antonidas and Ragnaros will help tremendously, as long as he curves okay in the early game, because the Paladin will usually not contest the early stages of the game, and with War Elemental, you have a good transition into the mid-late.
Honestly, I feel confident playing Paladin versus Tempo Mage, but maybe because I played a lot of Paladin. Like, you do have Doomsayers, you do have weapons, you do have Kodos as well with Humility. So most of the time you actually stop. You have like really good quality cards. And then when you reach endgame, you have Light Lord, you have Tyrion, you have Forbidden Healing to just deny the half of the game that happened. Paladin has, Mage has a chance versus Paladin if it has a really good opening and Paladin whiffs on the responses. But we're going to see the Warlock versus Mage now. So this is the Reno Warlock with Sagoth and Faceless Shambler.
Yeah, it looks like the double Mana Worm opener will be there for AKAWonder, but unfortunately the spells that he has cannot power them just yet until Hoej decides to play something. So right now they're mostly eye candy.
Yeah. They don't do anything, and the Mana Worms, they are cool, but if you cannot buff them, they don't do much as well. There is a Hellfire for Hoej, so he will be able to deal with them. If they just stick around and don't do anything, he'll just Hellfire and that's it. Like, he can Hellfire next turn. You probably have to play this Apprentice here.
No, I don't think you want to. Because the thing is, like, if he plays removal, then you lost more than you had to. And if he plays a minion, then you've got a good play anyway. So there's no reason to throw out another body for this.
But you need the pressure. This is Reno lock we are talking about. Like, you need to kill him before he plays Reno and hope that he doesn't draw Reno at all.
So, like, let's assume you didn't play Apprentice, right?
Sure. So what do you do?
Like, let's assume you didn't play Apprentice, and he decided to life tap and not play a minion. Like, your game plan still happens. If he doesn't clear your board, it just gives you time a little bit later to get a better Apprentice combo. What I'm questioning is just how good this Apprentice really could have been, even if it worked and it stayed alive. What did it do?
The problem is, Nox, that if you play versus this kind of deck, you need to pressure as Tempo Mage. If you don't play Apprentice, you just deal 2 points of damage to the Reno deck, and it's nothing. Like, they don't even care about that damage at that point. So if next turn, if you don't have Apprentice, you have just Mana Worms, they can continue tapping. They don't care about your Mana Worms. And if you don't have any spell to follow up with Apprentice, you just don't pressure enough. But
yeah, that was the point. That was my fear. My fear was if you play Apprentice without spells, you're not doing anything. But that being said, he got eaten up by Hellfire, and as it stands, Hoej has the Mortal Coil to go with this Farseer if he doesn't want to Shadow Bolt. But he takes the I'm going to keep my board up approach.
Yeah, Shadow Bolt is pretty juicy there, and AKAWonder, and he was in trouble, but now he got this Faceless Summoner, so it's at least something. Let's see the free drop.
Adult Grizzly makes a 6/6 out of this Wise Summoner, which is actually pretty good.
It's a funny card. Yeah. Adult Grizzly is something that might work in the future. Maybe not in this set, but the card has a lot of potential overall as a combo card, I feel.
Yeah, it's like another Hobgoblin in Wild. So
yeah.
Maybe it works there. Oh, hi. Doomsayer comes out. AKAWonder is not too troubled. At this point, I feel like an Archmage Antonidas would carry this game really hard for AKAWonder.
We'll see how tired AKAWonder is. If he Forbidden Flames this Doomsayer, he is really tired.
If he plays Yogg-Saron, sure.
That might actually be a valid reason, but no.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tricky spot. Again, no good plays for Hoej since all his hand consists of slightly situational cards, and AKAWonder at least now gets an outlet for all those spells that have been clogging up his hand. Oh, that's a card you'd probably be happy to play, but I don't think you want to smash this on this board.
Yeah, sure. Oh wow, now he has the Blizzard and Frost Nova. Those cards do not seem to do much. Frost Nova is something you can pair with Antonidas possibly on turn 10, so maybe he should look into that. But Vaporize...
I might play Nova. Like I was gonna say, it depends whether or not I'm using my Frostbolt this turn. Because if I'm using Nova, I'm freezing right now. I'm not waiting on Antonidas, I think.
Do you slam Ragnaros as Hoej? If you slam Ragnaros, you have a chance to hit the 6/3. As there is no other way to kill the 6/3, and if you just go Sunfury Protector, that's your second ton giver. So I like Ragnaros a lot.
You would have to play Imp Gang Boss with Faceless Shambler to do this. And that's a lot of damage coming in, man. That is... Wow. The pressure is really mounting up, and...
Yeah, but you do face some problems. Like, I would still like to see Forbidden Flame and Ragnaros, and because 5/5 to face. But you do you start with it? Is there like any other thing you can do? I guess there is nothing to do for 1 mana.
You're getting a free fireball's worth of damage to this Warlock's face this turn by having the Ethereal Conjurer go there. And one of the cool things is Hoej's pickup of this Reno Jackson. But look at that, the Ethereal Conjurer is still not answered immediately, so. It gives AKAWonder a bit of an opportunity with the Blizzard on the following turns.
Sure, but with the Reno Jackson, at least I think he can use Sunfury Protector to limit damage.
Sure, I would probably play Imp Gang Boss first. If I didn't die last turn, I don't think there's double Fireball Frostbolt coming in.
Sure.
Oh my goodness, okay, now you're talking about some dangerous shenanigans.
Let's go for it. There's no spell damage, but with Double Flame Waker, you can just jump all the spells.
I mean, I would play Blizzard first. The reasoning behind this is the Imp Gang Boss will otherwise counter your spam.
Either way, yeah.
Like, it kind of does not accomplish much.
Oh man, this friggin' Conjurer is like doing really, really well, and it dealt what, like 18 damage already?
Yeah, well, it attacked the face, I think, twice. Not 3 times yet, I'm not sure. I've seen it go twice, and Reno forced it after the first one. Spellbreaker on the Reno for the trade, and the Kodo can come out to kill the Flamewaker. That'll give him a full board that can soak up a lot of those Flamewaker hits, and AKAWonder seems a little bit frustrated at this point, but look at this draw from him right now.
Yeah, that's a lot of fireballs he's getting, and he will be able to deal with some of those minions as well. So you play Antonidas, then you kill a 2/2 Imp Gang Boss, and then
I think
you go
start with the M Gang boss, yes, definitely.
All right. Is there anything else he can think about?
You can jam the Flamewaker if you're investing on a board clear, but I don't think a board clear is going to save you here. And if you use up your spells, then Antonidas is no longer usable, and you've lost yourself the game.
The problem is if you do not deal with most of the damage on this board, then Jaraxxus is adding extra free damage, and you're at 12. So he
let's
needs to
assume you kill the
M
M Gang boss, right? Like you go kill the M Gang boss, and then an imp spawns 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's going to be 11 on board, and then you have the Arcane Blast. You've got the Arcane Missiles. You can usually clean up enough that Jaraxxus does not kill you outright. But this is the board clear approach. He's seen the Kodo. He hasn't yet seen the Siphon Souls. And he's hoping this does more than just ping random minions. And this is our sick outcome for Wonder. Wow.
Kodo is alive though.
Yeah, but what with? Jaraxxus? I mean, Hoej hasn't seen too many burn spells yet, so this Jaraxxus definitely looks like a liability. I think it's time to taunt up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. But
How do you kill this? You can't even kill it.
Yeah, the 2/4 stays on board. He doesn't have any spells, but Hoej will just need to play as many minions as possible, I guess. So what about like Bronzebeard, a 3/3, and a Stun Fury?
Yeah, that seems good to me. I mean, the only way you get pushed off is if, again, there's another slew of spells, which is highly unlikely at this point in the game, and you're setting up a lethal with the Jaraxxus on the following turn if that happens. Yeah, you don't want to get this Kodo. I don't know. It's about whether or not you value the ping that the mage does on the Kodo. Like, does that save you? Because right now you're wasting a bit of his mana if you're going face, whereas now you're giving him a good turn. So,
sure.
Yeah, Rhinoros is a great card here. It's a great play.
I think attack on the Flamewaker was actually not bad because normally it would just die to the ping, and Flamewaker could survive after attacking into a minion, and right now you at least ensure that the Flamewaker dies.
Oh, this is the worst hit for AKAWonder. He doesn't know what's coming, but that is not what he wanted to see in a reset button for Hoej. If he wants to pick it up, it's really tempting. I mean, BGH is just straight up like a win here. You BGH, you play Faceless Shambler on your whatever, honestly.
2/4, I guess, to have more health on the
You could copy your BGH. It's more damage output.
Sure. It should be enough to win with Jaraxxus next turn. All right. You might be thinking about those plays, but Big Game Hunter looks really juicy.
What do you think? What if AKAWonder picks up Arcane Intellect into Runner damage output if Hoej decides to go for some kind of life tap play instead of playing just the safe play?
Well, you know you're at 10, right? Are you afraid of Pyroblast, or are you thinking about a possible Fireball and Frostbolts more?
I think Fireball Frostbolt scares you more. That is usually what you'll expect more often than not. So, alright, this should be the last turn for AKAWonder. He needs to pick up a complete miracle here, and that is actually step 1. I don't know that there's much you can pick up off of it.
Fireball and Frostbolt ping wins the game, right? Because the cards are... Oh, man. Well, not enough.
That is not what he wanted, and these are all whiffs. Yeah, one after the other, and checkmate! AKAWonder loses another game with his mage deck.
So now Hoej is only down to his Paladin. If Hoej wins with the Paladin versus his mage deck, he just wins the whole match. And this mage deck will have to face Paladin in the end, because even if AKAWonder takes his Warlock deck again, well, actually AKAWonder has a Warrior that we haven't seen. So Warrior versus Paladin if AKAWonder wins that one, then he still needs to win with the mage to be able to win the series.
I mean, this mage is just
Just
not
bad.
work. It's just not working out. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's bad. It feels constructed okay. Like it's just a standard tempo mage, but maybe tempo mage just doesn't work overall because it doesn't have those cheap secrets anymore, those gimmick surprises that it can pull off. Like you really have to god draw, and I would almost pin the last game down to the mana worms that dealt nothing. They did literally nothing to this poor warlock.
Yeah, he just didn't have the follow-up with spells. Like he didn't have a coin, and there was the Hellfire to counter the early game. And right now, this mage has the last chance. If it loses here, it loses AKAWonder the match, and he's eliminated from the tournament. And this opening does not look good. This gives Hoej enough time. I mean, from AKAWonder, like you do want to have minions in the beginning and be able to overpower Paladin, because what will happen is exactly what I said before, that Hoej has answers. Equality, Consecration, he has Forbidden Healing. Like Tyrion is not good here, and Forbidden Healing is probably good for turn 9. But this Paladin deck has a lot of ways to deal with board.
Yeah, it's got a lot of ways to deal with board, and you want to be exploiting that window when they have nothing in the earlier stages of the game. And again, another whiff. But one of the things that, having a bad draw like this does for you, if you're the mage, is it lets you plan for a longer term lethal, if there's even one that's possible. So yes, it's bad. We're not gonna try to disguise that truth, but it is also the type of hand that lets you stack up enough burst because you don't rush it out early.
Sure. All right, so he goes for the Water Elemental, and Hoej does have double equality. So if he wants to be really, oh man, like even Doomsayer is not bad. Just play a Doomsayer and a Dude, and AKAWonder, if he kills the Doomsayer, then the dudes are still there, and he will have to spend a lot of resources to be able to deal with it. And if he doesn't, Hoej is fine with losing the dudes. Alternatively, he can use Equality right now and deal with the Water Elemental, but I feel like it's a waste.
I mean, one of the things that using Doomsayer does is if the mage kills your Doomsayer and expends resources, and he develops more minions, then all the more power to you. Because then you have an even better equality consecration. However, Hoej probably doesn't assume his opponent is sitting on too many minions, since he would have seen one. Right up until this point, we've just not seen any of that coming from the mage player. So very difficult position for AKAWonder, who's got to decide what he wants to do with his damage. And those 1/1s, if the Doomsayer dies, stay alive.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you do now with the Doomsayer? It's a Doomsayer dilemma. Do you just fireball and attack into it, or do you have a better play there?
I might Arcane Intellect and freeze face. I mean, you get to ping face, you get to Arcane Intellect to cycle, and the issue with killing the Doomsayer is the amount of damage you're putting in. Your opponent's not frozen, so again, another big issue, assuming there's even a weapon coming up for your Drake, and there's no real way for you to counter those 1/1s. If there weren't the 1/1s, I would be happy to maybe try to kill the Doomsayer, but because they're there, it's a worthless play.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you go for Sorcerer's Apprentice, it just dies next turn, killed by the 1/1s. So yeah, just like that, Hoej gains initiative. It's his turn 5. He can even play the Kodo if he wants to. Like Kodo is a great response to Flamewaker, but having a free 5 on board is also pretty good.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I feel like Stampede and Kodo finds a target in Flamewaker and Mana Worm often enough that you'll hold on to it. I like Pyromancer, dude. It's very passive, but at the same time, it's passively contesting what the mage wants to do. So
Here, just to play Pyromancer?
Pyromancer, dude. I mean, it's all right. Alternatively, just dude.
I'll probably keep the Pyromancer for equality in the future to be able to deal with like Antonidas or Rag or whatever. Sometimes you just need an activator, and you have both Consecration Equality to wipe the board once, and then we'll have Pyromancer with Equality to wipe the board twice. So if not going for the Kodo, I would go for just Hero Power instead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with either play, depending on Aldor, Peacekeeper, and Humility. Like the Kodo could see play elsewhere. We'll see what he does with the Pyro. It's kind of an interesting decision because it makes it so he respects those Antonidas / Ragnaros turns. If he plays the Pyro, if he keeps the Pyro, that is, and otherwise feels rather safe with Tyrion and his Kodo and Equality Consec and Forbidden Healing. You can't be safe enough, I guess.
Sure. And also, like, on turn 6, you normally expect Faceless Summoner from Mage, so that's why maybe not overextending to the board and just allowing them to play cards that you can wipe with Equality Consecration makes sense.
Here we go. We've got Flame Waker trying to set up. I mean, it doesn't really
Yes.
change too much here because there's no one ping. Pyromancer is the closest thing you'll come to.
Yeah, I know it's still annoying for AKAWonder.
Wait, Pyro Coin Kodo clears the board. Wow, that is nasty.
Do you even go for it? Like, is it worth it?
I might just Kodo and pass. But the thing is, the Apprentice is really scary. Oh, good. I mean,
with this many cards, but then you kind of want to keep the coin for maybe Tyrion on next turn, or there's so many 8 drops that you want to play in Paladin. There's the Ragnar's Light Lord, there's Ragnar Fire Lord, and also Tyrion. So if you get the coin and if you're able to keep it for turn 7 to play one of the big cards, I think it's great. And even though I do agree that killing Sorcerer's Apprentice is tempting. She does represent damage, and Arcane Intellects being cheaper, maybe even Arcanist's Tome being played for 4.
would you spell break then? Or Pyro? Because I really like the Pyro Coin Kodo. I think is the play that puts you so far ahead that the mage is struggling to get back in, given the little amount of removal he's got.
Sure. I think it comes down to the fact that you're playing versus an aggro deck, and sometimes when you play versus aggros, you just make those maybe not fully efficient plays in a way because coin will be so good on 7, but the plays that actually put you ahead on board.
Yeah, in a weird way, I guess Kodo kind of gets you to turn 8 too. I really didn't consider this, but the opponent pings the Pyro because he doesn't want to deal with equality if he develops a board, and then your Kodo's there to either trade with equality into something, put the opponent into a really awkward spot where they're being mana inefficient with their combo plays because yet they have to ping, which gets you to turn 8 because their turn 7 is so bad.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow, alright. We could always go Doomsayer Forbidden Healing back to full.
Do you have to do it? Like, I like the Doomsayer this turn, definitely, because then you have Tyrion on empty board next turn. Yeah, I guess it's really good. It's just really
you kind of have to heal, right? I mean, maybe you don't. I like to do it just because double Drake, like Drake with double Fireball already is like 18 on its. Dude, this guy's got what? Well, Cold Sorcerer with double Fireball is lethal. If he had the mana, just a Sorcerer's Apprentice left over, he'd win this. So I guess double Fireball to face is appealing, but how appealing is it?
Can you still like actually what about going double Fireball this turn anyway, and then next turn whatever is being played you go Antonidas with some spells?
That was my intent, because on turn 9 you get 2 more Fireballs, and even if he heals, because the thing is, if he plays Forbidden Healing, he's not playing an 8-drop, and then you win, right?
Yeah.
So
like basically you put him.
I'm so surprised. Okay, sure.
So it's how much damage is it? This is 18, right?
Yeah,
so
there's 18 damage right now on board for AKAWonder.
So if you go, Doomsayer goes in, he goes Forbidden Healing to full. And you go Antonidas, not to full actually,
yeah.
only 16, 18.
Not full at all. It's rather low, in fact.
18. Well, 18 is still alright.
Yeah, sure, it's alright. It's definitely alright. You've already seen the 2 Fireballs, so most of the burn is probably out of the way. But it definitely doesn't feel good. Oh man. So Ragnaros can bring it down to 10, or do you play Antonidas?
I think Ragnar's might be even better. Antonidas with Arcane Missiles is only giving you 1 Fireball, and it's not enough to finish the game. Even though
he can't play into Rag, right? He has to wipe it.
Yeah, exactly. So, wow, maybe this mage will actually kill the Paladin, and there's no more healing at the moment in hand.
Well, you could Spellbreak Rag and Humility it, so it can't actually deal more than 1. But that's going to eat up a lot of resources, in which case I guess you might as well play your Equalities. Quality Pyro. What's gonna soak arcane missiles? Like you've got to be scared of that if you're Hoy right now, a little bit.
Is Tyrion too risky? Because you can go obviously equality consecration to just clear the board, but it's 6 mana.
Pyro equality is probably better than consec.
Pyromancer equality, yeah. And then you have 5 left. But what do you do? Like just play Spellbreaker to have a body on board? It's not ideal.
I mean, I like that better than dying to arcane missiles and a mix of spells.
Sure.
So it's pretty bad, but it's the I think one of the more optimal lines of play. And look at that, the Archmage will find a target for the Arcane Blast with the worm on board. The missiles are likely to clean up the Spellbreaker, and there's no healing really left for Hoy. And if he goes for the Equality Consec, unless he picks up Forbidden Healing, he dies.
Yeah, he knows there's 12 damage coming, 13 with the ping, so it's a very tough spot for Hoy. And I said this Tempo Mage seemed bad, but right now versus Paladin,
Wow.
Hoy just didn't have enough to be able to stop all that damage. And you might be thinking that he got a bit greedy with not healing with Forbidden Healing before. And was there any chance not to leave the Azure Drake on board?
There was a play if you used Equality with the Kodo, which got you to turn 8. I thought the play he made when he played Pyro Coin Kodo was consistent with Equality on 1 minion on 7, followed by the Doomsayer in that spot. And the point is that the mage can't play something like an Archmage or a Rag or anything like that. You've cleaned up their board, and you then put Tyrion, and you're at relatively high health. So I think Hoy's line of play was a bit greedier than what I expected him to take. But it ended up being rather close. Like if there hadn't been double Fireball, for instance, like the play was great, and it didn't get punished.
It's also interesting how AKAWonder was able to win in a different way than you would think, because I assume that this matchup goes like you want to lay on tempo, like it's Tempo Mage. So you start with Mana Worms, you go with Cult, Sorcerer, Apprentice, whatever, and you just start piling up damage with those early minions, and then you finish your opponent off with Fireballs, Tempo Mage. Instead, It looked like you just kind of draw cards and you accumulate those threats, and then you dump the threats in 2 turns to threaten lethal, and your opponent starts backpedaling. It's like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. I would better heal for like 16 damage, but it's not enough. You have still more bursts coming.
Yeah, that's what we were alluding to in the beginning of the game was, you can play this game out by just holding on to your burn and setting up, a long-term lethal, and that's exactly what AKAWonder did. And he's going to be moving on to match point here. It's going to be him or Hoy going down in this last game. It's going to be his Cthulhu Warrior versus N'Zoth Paladin. I mean, Cthulhu Warrior versus N'Zoth. Does he run double brawl? That is important.
I think this deck definitely runs double brawl. Is essentially the same as the Control Warrior. It's like you do not run Grommash, you don't have Geddon, you have Veclor, you have Ancient Shieldbearer, and you obviously have Katoon and a couple of small minions. So a big part about this matchup early on is are you able to hit 10 attack on Cthulhu before turn 7 to get full value of Veclor and Ancient Shieldbearers. But double brawl is the thing, right? Because when the Zoth comes down, most of the time there is a lot of death rattles. So you want to brawl first, get a lot of stuff out of the table, but then you want to brawl again because something like Bane comes back, and those fights are mostly around the time the fatigue hits.
Right, which is exactly where you're supposed to be winning the war. After that point, you usually cruise control to victory as warrior. If fatigue comes in this matchup, you're very often in a great spot. Now, it's going to be a matter here of navigating the minion spam from Hoy, if there's any from AKAWonder's perspective, because one of the things you're not expecting from Paladin is a lot of minions to be coming down. But in this exact position, it seems like there's a lot more than I personally anticipated, and it's very unusual.
Yeah, the thing is that one of the big cards in this matchup is Justicar Trueheart, so that Paladin is able to create 2 dudes every turn, and at some point Warrior just has to deal with the board that chips in armor, and if you don't have Ravaging Ghouls at that late game point, you will have to at some point just brawl the board, and when you lose the brawls, this is exactly what Paladin wants, and he will come back at you with the N'Zoth deck. Okay, so Let's evaluate the hands a bit. There is the +2/+2 buff. The Ancient Shieldbearer comes down for AKAWonder, but he doesn't have Cthulhu is at 8/8 at the moment. He still needs to pick Cthulhu's Chosen or maybe Disciple of Cthulhu to be able to pump his Cthulhu to 10 attack. But his hand at the moment is not bad. Like, he got Acolyte, he will be able to draw some cards. On the other hand, for Hoej, it looks quite good with Sylvanas and Kodo to be able to respond to this 2/3. He also is getting some cards in the beginning. So it's funny how this matchup goes kind of into the minion battles in the beginning, trying to get your opponent lower and bait the removal.
All right.
All right, Nexus is there?
I'm trying.
Sure.
Is it working?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that my microphone was actually completely messed up. The stream said that everything was going very wrong for like 15 minutes now. So if it's actually the case, then I'm surprised production didn't hear it, or you either, for that matter.
Yeah, so I mean, I did hear you fully. If on stream you guys only can hear me, then we are sorry for the technical difficulties. But I can hear Noxious. That's why we were having discussions. I'm not going mad. It's not the Oxaron. All right, so I can see the Cthulhu's Chosen, which is a really good pickup. Disciple as well, but it doesn't matter that much. The thing is that on turn 7, AKAWonder, his Cthulhu has plus 10 attack at the moment, so he will be able to play Ancient Shieldbearer to get 10 armor and also get Veclor. But there is a Kodo for Hoej, and what do you do now? You can Consecration, you can trade, and you have 2 more mana. You can create a dude. Do you go for the Doomsayer? Like, when do you go for the Doomsayer? Do you want to avoid turn 7? Probably not. Like, you are ahead on board, so we are fine with this.
Yeah, it looks pretty okay to me. I mean, he's already enabled all the Cthulhu cards in his deck, right, at this point, so all he's got to do is play the slowest game he can. The problem is he's getting low on cards, and Paladin will not have any problems dealing with his board whenever it comes down.
Yeah, definitely. Paladin has all the clears. For Hoej, though, he has the Justicar Trueheart, which is the big card that I mentioned. If he will probably play it around turn 8. And also, like, early Sylvanas is not bad because, you know, with Nizov, Sylvanas will come back. Have we seen Kern
we haven't
at all?
Right. I don't remember seeing it, but one of the things that happens in those lists is that, you know, you need to make room for some lists playing double humility. Sometimes Kern comes in, sometimes he goes out, sometimes you don't play double humility, sometimes you play Justicar. I've seen some people run without Justicar or Harrison Jones. So again, that's another tech choice you can opt for. There's a lot of little flex spots you can find in the list, which is what makes N'Zoth Paladin great because it's got a really solid core. It can be tech adapted to what you adapting to what you expect.
Yeah, even like there is Karen. Even like Adric the Pure is a card that comes in and out. Having Karen right now is great because it wasn't the Justicar turn yet, and Karen is troublesome for your opponent. And you know that Karen will come back with N'Zoth. Like N'Zoth, the earlier you play N'Zoth, the better in a way. But you want to have those Devrava cards first.
Yeah, and right now there's a good Wild Pyromancer equality offering itself to Hoej if he wants to take it. I know it's tempting to play Justicar on curve, but there's a lot of damage coming in. So you have the option of going for the Tyrion Taunt, which rarely gets punished unless there's double Brawl in the deck, which there is. But at the very least, you're getting a 4/5 in the weapon out of it.
Yeah, I think Tyrion is great because you do want to see the Brawl here. You do want to see the Brawl because when you see the Brawl, there is no second Brawl for N'Zoth. So after N'Zoth is being played, they Brawl and you still have a 4/5, you have the weapon.
Oh, man.
And take something with Sylvanas. That's why you want to Brawl twice when N'Zoth is being played. Like, Sylvanas most of the time is just taking one of your minions that you had on board.
Yeah.
And Harrison Jones as well. It seems like Hoej has all the cards.
He's got all the cards, but he's going to be facing down the Ancient Shieldbearer, enabling Shield Slam, because without Justicar, this armor up is not enough to deal with with Tyrion. So, because you've got the ability to combine your Shield Slam with the Ghoul, you're probably going to be fine going forward. Oh, he's actually going to wait and play the value game with that Ancient Shieldbearer. Okay. I see how it is. He's going to push 8 damage this turn, which is great, and not overextend with a huge minion. If he plays 3 big minions, the equality is even more punishing.
There's Shield Slam has one other use. If he gets Sylvanas next turn, he will have a chance to steal Karen. Like, one of the best things you can do is steal Tyrion, obviously, so that you deny the Ashbringer and you deny the Tyrion coming back. But if you steal one of the big Defralos, it does limit Nizal's power for sure.
Yeah, this weapon, though, I don't know if AKAWonder is running Harrison Jones. I'm hoping for him that there's a copy of it in his deck somewhere and he finds it soon. Because otherwise he's going to get run over very soon by 1-1s from Justicar and pretty big late-game threats with Ragnaros and Sylvanas.
This is also a nice play by Hoej because you do ensure that Karen died on your side of the board, so it will come back with Nizalf, and you're not only clearing, but you're also getting Bane.
Yeah, this the Shield Slam might end up being used a lot earlier than you expected. It's fine. It's not too bad. You're also buying a ton of time by having the armor up behind this. But again, the big drawback of Cthulhu Warrior is just showing here, card draw. It just seems like a deck that has too many cards that are used situationally, and the ones that aren't used situationally usually aren't powerful enough to win you games on their own, which is why I think Control Warrior, the standard list, is very often regarded as better.
Yeah, definitely. And, like mentioning Cthulhu, Hoej is actually quite low on health. He's only at 13. So you need to find a good way to be able to deal with it. Do you play Sylvanas here? I like Sylvanas because, as you mentioned, when you play Cthulhu, if Cthulhu kills Sylvanas, it does stop the sequence.
Well, no, it doesn't stop the sequence, like, midway. What it'll do is it'll go off and then you'll steal it, so they can't really attack you with it on the following turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like... it's a bit of a roadblock, because very often people play Cthulhu, yes, for the battle cry, but also for the body itself. It does matter, as it is the game closer. What's
Talking about a body, there's a Doomcaller. That's a big body.
Yeah, I wouldn't play it into Sylvanas. What I would like here is hoping the Paladin extends more into this. I doubt he will, given that you've shown that you're not playing anything. So he might just be content with not even Hero Power Ring to reduce the odds of a good brawl and just punch you.
I think it's fine to get a brawl. Like, Hoej does want to get a brawl there, I think, because of if you see removal before you play Nizalf, you're good. So,
well, the question is, do you need to play more into the brawl? Like, you remember the position Warrior was in a lot of the times where they had to 50-50? This is exactly it. You don't play a 1-1, this Warrior will be forced to eventually brawl a really terrible board.
True.
The question is, do you think your 12 health is too low to start caring about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it might be too low. So I think I'm fine pressuring and going for the minions here.
Yeah, it's very consistent with the follow-up. So he does not use the hero power. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah. There we go.
Well thought. So it basically makes the brawl still terrible, but you do ensure that Justicar is out of the way and you have this good hero power.
And now the Doomcaller doing what it always does, it seems, whenever I see it played. +2/+2 on Cthulhu.
That's basically it.
That is all I've ever seen it do
Nothing
in competitive
else.
play. Yeah.
Humility with Kodo, but... Well, you can still just trade
I would
your...
steal it, yeah. I would just steal this.
steal
You
it?
guarantee the Nazoth come back on your turn, then you push 9. Good enough.
I still like keeping Sylvanas on board, I think. It was super awkward for your opponent last turn. He like, before Doomcaller, he just didn't do anything.
So you would
just
trade into it?
Yeah, you
Okay.
just trade minions into it, you go Sylvanas' face, and Ragnaros. This is still one of the most terrible brawls you can have.
Yeah, there's no execute target to save you on the back of this, so you're probably dead next turn. At least you're expecting it to work. And this Sylvanas is unfortunately not going to be where you want it to be. It's a bit too late to the party. Yeah, so the trick here is you humiliate your own Sylvanas to steal his.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty good, actually. I like it.
is there a lethal? The thing is, like, you really don't want to miss with that rag shot. You really don't want to miss that rag shot.
Yeah, he's already taking humility there. It's a really cute play, and it should work. And it's still like the same awkward board that was before.
It's the same board, except you've also stolen their minion.
Yeah, one of the best ones though. And you know what? Actually, It's a second Sylvanas that will be on your side of the board. So N'Zoth will bring double Sylvanas if she dies on your side.
So here's the thing I've noticed about N'Zoth. Like, it doesn't matter what it brings back. As long as it brings back two things, usually you're good.
Yeah.
It feels like, when you see the 7 minions coming out, it's like this crazy blowout, but like the winner of the match just had to get 2 minions, maybe at most, to get away with the game. So double Sylvanas would be tricky in that spot, but it's so overkill against the poor AKAWonder who's got nothing to do. At least he can execute this one, right? There's like one upside to this. He's gonna have to RNG brawl and hope the execute hits.
Yeah, that's the thing, and then I guess like draw into Cthulhu as fast as possible.
Might work. I mean, he's not out of the game completely just yet, so it's still possible.
So okay, we were thinking about brawl execute as one of the outs to not die, because if you don't kill Ragnaros, you take 12 damage next turn. With Justic or Trueheart, you can get to 15. So
yeah, you can. Well, you can. The problem with that is that Sylvanas hits you, so you can't execute.
17, yeah.
Yeah. So you'd have to execute first, then play Justicar and armor up, and that would put you at 13, which is 1 off of lethal if the rag hits your face.
But you have a minion on board, so it can maybe.
There's lethal on board right now. Yeah, we see that Hoej has lethal with the Pyro Consec, but otherwise, there was a slight chance that the rag missing would matter.
Yep. So it seems that's basically it, and how will be taking the series. That tempo mage, man, it just didn't work. In the end, it got a win, so at least AKAWonder can feel good about that. But
I'm not even sure if it's a tempo mage anymore. I mean, those lists seem to work the best when you see them work when they end up playing everything but tempo. Like when they hoard spells and they combo you down at multiple points during the game. AKAWonder looks completely broken inside.
It is tough, man. It is a $50,000 tournament, and it's just the start, the first invitational part, and those guys will advance to the next group stage. So Hoej is making that small step there, and but he's also in a tough spot. He eliminated AKAWonder, but he cannot lose anymore at this point. But really well played by both players, and it was so cool to see 3 Cthulhu decks from AKAWonder. They might have not worked, but it was still enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, but it's a very grueling series for AKAWonder. It was a long match against Hoej, and he came so close, it seemed, until the mage dropped a game, and then the Cthulhu Warrior could not seal it. I have to wonder what he thinks about the Cthulhu Warrior after the fact. A lot of players like the deck, but they're very... I guess it's split, right? The opinions of people are split on that archetype specifically.
Yeah, definitely. And then for AKAWonder, he started with 2-0, so he felt good. I can make this. I just need to win with the mage. And then he went 0-3 with that poor mage, finally getting a win. And yeah, that's definitely tough. Fortunately for him, he has some friends around him there, so they can cheer him up. Maybe buy him a drink. Hopefully they will do it. But it was a long day, Nox. We had a couple of great matches, and far about bringing those OTK decks. That was fun to watch.
That was great. I love the green sheep blowouts as well against Pavel. I will remember those for a long time to come. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen 2 games back-to-back be that incredibly streaky. And that was insane.
That was like the best Shaman hand we've seen in a while, right?
That worked, because very often you'll play that and then Fiery War Axe comes out and it's not as impressive. But this was a turn 3 kill or something along those lines, which was completely nuts from the Shaman side.
All right, I think we are ready to finish for today. We will be back, guys, on Monday, 5 p.m. CST. We're not sure with which group. Like we'll let you know on social media, but we will be back on Monday. Me and Noxious were casting together again. Sure. Noxious, do you have any final words for today? What was the highlight for you?
I'd say the highlight was probably seeing the lineups coming from Firebat, just with the amount of combo decks in there. It leads me to believe that the metagame hasn't settled yet. If you can afford to bring this type of lineup to a tournament and not get punished by it yet, it means you're adding something to the meta that people will have to start taking into consideration, and eventually we'll see all these decks balance out. I'm hopeful that it doesn't come down to Conquest lineups that literally just combo and control, because that would be a very, very repetitive meta in many aspects. Control, I think, is sometimes very fun, but combos can get a little out of hand when that's literally all you do.
Yeah, I do agree with you fully. And for me, the highlight was the diversity of decks. So
Yeah.
we've seen those decks from Firebat, but very different approaches to how to build the Reno log. Some Nizov version from Pavel, the Sogoth and Shambler from Hoej, and the Cthulhu version from AKAWonder. So everybody seems to play a different version of almost every deck with some specific choices, and that's great to watch and cast.
Yep.
All right. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. See you guys on Monday. And that was a long day, but with many great games. So, have a good night and play some Hearthstone afterwards.
Take care.
Now I've got a tale to tell you of the ones from long ago. There's an evil that's been dreaming, but now it's softly screaming. From the darkness, their power will grow. Their voices are made of poison. When you listen, you are sure to be disturbed. You can lock your doors. You can say your prayers. No creature can resist their wicked words. Never mind, no need to worry. That's all just a story of the whispers of the old gods.